Well, a very warm welcome. Welcome to the Fishing Towel Films YouTube channel and another episode of Reeling Back the Years, and this is episode 18. But before I start to chat about today's subject, something I've been really looking forward to doing, I must admit, because I used to love fishing this place. Many thanks to all the kind comments, to all the likes, and the new subscribers that have joined the channel that seem to be enjoying the content that's going out there, whether it be tales from the riverbank, reeling back the years, or it's just some general course fishing under the Fishing Towel Films banner. Thank you very much. Your support is very much appreciated. Well, today I want to chat about a place that I absolutely love to fish. There's a little bit of a backstory to it, and then there's three stories that have always, so when I think of the Ornamental Waters in Wanstead, I always think of these three occasions, or mainly anyway, because I've fished it so many times. But when I stopped fishing the boating lake, when I say stop fishing, it was when the perch were wiped out through the perch disease round about sort of the mid-70s. By then, I think it was City of London had done a lot of work on the Ornamental Waters, which was a bit further behind, a bit further into the Wanstead Park, because I think back in the early 60s we had a really bad winter and a lot of leaves had fallen into the lake, which was very shallow, and where it frozen up for a long period, we had a really bad winter. The gases unfortunately killed a lot of the fish, because the gases got trapped and they all died. So for many years the Ornamental Waters just sat there doing nothing. Anyway, they were cleaned up, dredged out, restocked, and much to my delight, it was stocked with, roach, lots of crusions, and lots of tench as well. There was bream and skimmers in there, and it was great. And after a time, there was a lot of weed had built, and the water was quite good quality. It was quite clear, and you would look for gaps in the weed, and you could see the little tench in it, from sort of bars of soap, as I like to call them, up to sort of £2 or £3. £2 or £3 was a good fish. There used to be the odd bigger one in there. So I used to be fascinated by watching them, and I'd like put a little bit of ground bait in, and then watch them, the shapes come over, swim across the ground bait, and it was quite exciting. Then you see them fizzing bubbles, and you could see them getting their heads down. But over time the water started to colour up, because I think they introduced some carp into the water as well, only sort of small carp, and of course there was crusions in there as well. But before that there was an old ruin, and if many of you had fished the Ornamental Waters, which I'm sure you have that watched this series, you would have seen that there was an old ruin, a crumbling ruin on the lake, situated on the lake. Now, many years ago I always thought that had something to do with Anne Boleyn. The rumour was, it was Anne Boleyn's old castle ruin. So I used to walk past it and look at it and think, blimey, I bet things were so different, years and years ago. But it wasn't until a few years ago that I realised that Anne Boleyn had absolutely nothing to do with it. It wasn't her property. She never lived there. In fact, it was built back in 1761 by John Child, who was the second Earl Turney, and he had an estate. I know there was a big White House right over the back, and he had this building which was called the Grotto, and it was basically destroyed by a fire. back in 1884, sadly. And I'm looking down at some of my notes here because I don't want to forget them. But the grotto was built by John Chald as an elaborate sort of feature for the lake. It's kind of like almost like a boathouse. It had a storeroom in there. He had staff that worked in there as well, and you could imagine in them days people would go out and hire a boat out and have a little picnic and spend it by this beautiful lake. It was all different shapes and size. I think every light channel has got a name. It was like almost like a finger shape of all these sort of bits that went off down all over the place. And the River Roding was right over the back, down one side, and there was like a pump house that they used to, because obviously the water used to get quite low. It was prone to sort of drying out, so they used to pump water from the Roding into the Ornamental Waters to keep it sort of topped up, keep the water fresh. I don't know if they used to fish it all them years ago, but I think it was used more as a boating lake for pleasure, and I suppose his guests and stuff like that. But ironically, the grotto was destroyed in 1884, where a fire had broken out in the storeroom. Now, the fire brigade got there, but you would have thought, like, being next to a lake, they would have had plenty of water to put the fire out. But every now and then they used to drain the lake so that they could clear it out. I suppose debris used to get in there over the years. And when it caught fire, the lake had been drained, so they had no water to to put the fire out. So basically it got burnt down, and it was just left basically over the years just to kind of rot away, which was really sad. And kind of today it just remains like a romantic ruin, as it was when I used to remember it all them years. It is listed on the Heritage at Risk Register, and I know there's been ongoing efforts by a local group to try and make sure that the rest of it doesn't crumble away. I remember seeing some photos. There was some like scaffolding around it where they're trying to sort of repair it a little bit. Obviously they won't be able to bring it back to its glory days, but it had like all fossils put into it. It was really elaborate, this building, and the architects and all that. This John Chald who had it built, there was all like sort of fossil relics put into it and everything. It was quite an elaborate. Must have been quite some sight to have seen all them years ago. So the mystery really solved itself a long while after I stopped fishing it. I always thought it was connected to Anne Boleyn. Well, it had nothing to do with that at all. It was a chap called John Chald who had it built as an elaborate boathouse, I guess you could say, for his estate all them years ago. But sadly, burnt down because they had no sort of water to put it out. Ironic, really. But anyway, I had some fantastic fishing times there, I must admit. And there's 3 stories that stick in my mind when I think of the Ornamental Waters at Wanstead Park. So what I used to do was pretty much the same as when I used to fish the boating lake. I would either go on my bike or I'd pull me trolley right the way across Wanstead Flats. It used from Forest Gate, go up down Forest Lane near where Forest Gate Station was, do a left, head towards the Flats, sort of Dames Road area, and then just go right the way across, dragging this trolley along, or just carrying my wicker basket. Used to try and sort of go as light as I could, but I was fit and I used to walk at a fair old pace, and many a time I'd walk across there in the dark, because I love fishing at first light. I still do even today. But though some fisheries, they don't open till 8 o'clock, so first light's already happened. But there you go, that's the way it is. But in them days, there was they had like concrete railings that used to go along, and there was like gaps, so we used to climb through that, because the gate, I think, didn't open till about 8 or 9 o'clock for the park itself. But everyone, all the anglers, used to just climb through, and in them days you just got on with it. No one no one misbehaved, well, not that I ever see. You just got on with your fishing. It was just there for your love of fishing. So the three sort of stories that kind of are always stuck in my memory is one of them is I'd walked all the way across, had all my gear, my wicker basket with the sponge on the top and the straps to stop you getting a bit of a sore bum, and when I got there, getting all my stuff out, and I couldn't find me pint of maggots, me tub of maggots, and then I realised I'd left them on the side back at home. Oh dear! But as luck would have it, I had a loaf of bread with me, some like Mother's Pride, which I still think even to this day, because it was so stodgy, was the best. It used to stay on the hook really well. So I was sitting there, I thought, well, I'm not walking all the way back because just too far. I'll have to make do with what I've got. I had a little bit of ground bait, and so got obviously undone the bag, got a loaf out, pressed it, and I thought, well, that's really doughy. I reckon I could probably do something with this. So I had a bit of an idea so I sort of took a little pinch of it and I rolled it into the shape of a maggot, about that long, fairly fat, and so I thought, put it on the hook, cast it out. I used to fish like just float. It's very shallow, sort of 2-3 foot, and flicked it out. I'd obviously put a bit of ground bait in, which would have been like a meaty mix ground bait. I think that was by British Ground Baits, and it used to like ping the water. So you'd put a little nugget in and it'd hit the bottom and it'd fizz for about 10 minutes, so you always knew where your ground bait was, and you could fish right up. It's almost like a target area. And float went under, boom, nice little tench, and put another bit on it, went out again, float slid away, boom, another tench, and it just kept coming. They just kept coming, one after the other, all on little rolled up balls of, when I say balls, like maggot shape, bread maggot shape, shapes of bread, and size 16 hook. I even would put 2 on to make it look like a double maggot, and I was getting some really quality tench. Some were touching the 2-3 pound mark, which was like good fish for there. And I think I had something like 84 tench, all little ones, like I say 2.5, possibly 3 was the biggest, but most of them averaged around the pound and a half. Great weight builders. If I was fishing a match, that would have been fantastic fishing, And it was all tench, nothing else. I just had all tench, and I was fishing down one of the little. In fact, what I thought was Anne Boleyn's house was to the left of me, and I was fishing on the opposite bank to that, but fishing down one of the little finger channels that went off. It wasn't very wide. I think I don't think it was even 9 metres wide. If you had a pole, you'd probably 16 metre pole. You'd be fishing in the forest on the far bank. It was quite shallow, quite narrow, and it was just stuffed with fish. And and I used up quite a lot of. In the end, I was like just thumb flicking out a few bits of like loose feed, rolled up sort of maggots on it. But something that I'll never forget, turned a disaster into a good day. I reckon I probably had better stamp tench fishing that way as opposed to if I'd put maggots on. But and I fished that way a couple of other times as well, and again had good results. So always not lost if you've got a loaf of bread with you, I must admit. So that's one story that's always stuck in my mind. And another one was a bit of a weird one. I was night fishing. Now, you weren't allowed to night fish it, but again, everyone behaved themselves, so there was no need for anyone to come on and chuck us off. We just got on with our fishing. And I was fishing with my mate Ricky, and he'd brought along. I was fishing. I just brought an umbrella, and I was gonna, because it was summertime, and I was gonna fish under that. And I remember him. He brought a red wigwam, so he set his wigwam up. I mean, he could only get half of him in there when he was asleep at night. From his waist down, he was sticking out of the wigwam. How he slept like that, I don't know, because it did actually get quite chilly. But I was up all night just fishing, and we was on a point. There was a bit that come out onto the point, and you could look at the lake. It was like the main bowl of the lake. Anne Boleyn's castle, or the grotto as I now know it to be, was again to my left but further round. It was behind me, and I was sitting there, and I was actually, during the night, I just put a swing, you know, the long swing tips, the old-fashioned swing tips. I put a swing tip on, because on the rod you could screw it to the end of your rod. You had like an eye bit on the top eye, and then you had a screw connection. And I was fishing, it was sort of, the bites were sort of like that, you know, and I was catching little tench, skimmers, and all sorts of stuff. And never forget, it was a very calm night. There was no wind. There was a few other anglers dotted on the other bank, but not many, some round the side, because it was all like nooks and crannies. And I'm looking down at watching a bite develop. Ricky was snoring in his wigwam, and then all of a sudden, as I'm looking into the reflection, something caught me eye. This like orange globe appeared, and I sort of thought, what the hell's that? And I've like looked up, and then, because there was a tree, you could just about see the tree tops, because it was quite a fairly clear night actually. And this globe shot up in above the trees, and I'm sort of looking up at it, and I'm going, Rick, wake up, mate, Rick, look at this. And he's just snoring away, and then this. So you imagine this globe's come up like that, and I'm looking up at it in the distance, and I kid you not, it just moved like a pendulum. It went to the left, back to the middle, it went to the right, back to the middle, and then it just shot straight up in the air, and vanished. And this sort of, although it felt like it was happening in slow motion, it probably lasted about 10 seconds, I suppose. But I just could not believe, and I was just gobsmacked. Rick was still, you know, I was hoping that someone had seen it with me. I listened around, I could hear no one going, wow, did you see that? I think everyone was facing like into me, if you like, and I'm looking up at something that's going on right in the distance above the tree lines. And so 1 minute I'm looking down at me, a bite developing on my tip, see this glow which makes me look up, shoots up in the air, it goes to the left, back to the middle, to the right, back to the middle, and then just flew, just whoosh. There was no sound, nothing. So I had a walk about, spoke to a couple of other anglers, and I just said to them, did you see that orange glow in the sky? And they said, what orange glow? And I said, oh, don't matter, just something I see. But no one else see it. So what the hell that was, I really don't know. Unexplained object for sure. And like I say, that will always stick in my mind, as you could well imagine. So yeah, so I haven't got a clue what it was. Again, there was no internet around, so because this would have been, you know, I'm talking about the sort of 70s, maybe early 80s now, definitely late 70s when this happened, and there was nothing in the park. I looked in the Newham Recorder, which was our local paper, nothing in there at all, nothing that anything had been reported. Because I remember over that way was Wanstead Park golf course, so it would have been over in that direction. So if you know where Wanstead Park golf course is, then you would definitely know roughly, and if you was an angler and all, you probably could imagine where I was fishing on the point where the lake really opened out, and you could probably imagine if that's where the golf course is, tree line tops, because there's a lot of like forestry and that is in that direction there. So God knows what was happening that day. Something very, very strange. Well, the third story, I've always got to slip a funny story in there, because when I look back, it was funny. I was fishing almost opposite to the other bank when I was fishing that time with the bread, when I was rolling up the bread into shapes of maggots that I was just telling you about earlier. It was almost the opposite bank, and the water level, we'd had a really hot summer as we did then. This would have been in the 70s, probably not the drought year of 76, probably a couple of years after that, but we always had hot summers. And I was fishing the opposite bank, because you could fish all around the place, and but the bank, the water level was down, so it exposed sort of some muddy bank. So you had, like, imagine that was like the top of the bank, then there was a slope, the water level was sort of there, so it was all mud and everything. Because in them days we never had, it wasn't invented then, the old sort of levelers, feet levelers. There was an octopus range that come out, if you remember, octopus that come out. But again, I was on my wicker basket, so I remember hunting around trying to find some flat stones to try and prop up the front of the wicker basket, so that, you know, I could sit, because I nothing worse sitting lopsided or feeling like you're slipping forward. So I found some bricks, put them underneath, give it the old test, moved about, and it, yeah, that's okay. Then I was fishing away, catching my usual tench, enjoying myself, having a lovely time. I was on my own that day, and because it was a park, you'd get like people walking their dogs, or just going for a stroll in general, you know, father and son and the family, and mother and husband walking around, couples and stuff like that. And I'd had a bite, struck, and I could feel like someone was watching me behind. I saw a quick glimpse, and there was like a family of 4, mum, dad and his 2 sons, and they'd obviously seen me sort of hook into this fish, and it was a decent one. And I think, oh, this feels a better one, better stamp. It's probably one of the 2-3 pounders. And I'm playing it like that, and the old rod tips banging away and thumping around. I used to fish fairly light, you know, I used to enjoy fishing light. So as I've gone to grab hold of me landing net, the handle and pan, I've sort of swung it around, getting ready to net the fish. And as I've done that, I felt the stone underneath me dislodge, and my wicker basket tilted forward, and I started sliding down it, because it was like that, and I'm now slid into the water, bearing in mind it's only that deep but very muddy, and I've got me rod up in the air. I'm there laying in the water up to my waist, and I've got me landing it in my hand, and there's not a lot that I can do. And I'm just thinking to myself, oh my God, I forgot about the people behind me watching me. And I'm just laying there now like this. I've got the wicker basket wedged into the back of my neck, and I'm like, then I've got the rod up, and I've just managed to, and I'm like looking at an angle to trying to tilt my head forward so I could, because even though, I mean, the logical thing would have been to put the rod down, let go of the landing net handle, and then got myself up and sorted myself out. But no, I had to. The only thing I was interested in was netting the fish. So I thought, once I net the fish, and I must have looked to right side, just flapping around. I finally netted the fish, put the rod down to one side, laying there, and I've sort of moved the landing net handle behind me, and then I sort of like belly flopped and crawled my way out, making sure my wicker basket didn't completely fall in the lake. And all the time that was going on, this probably lasted about 2 minutes, the family of 4 were just standing there looking at me like that. No expression at all. I've looked up and gone, and I've said something like, well, what a palaver that was, look at the state of me. And they just looked at me, said nothing at all, and then just walked off. I thought, oh well, didn't even get a round of applause for giving them a bit of entertainment. And I just thought, people were strange, didn't they? They would have thought, or do you need a hand, mate? But they'd probably think, what's he doing? Why is he doing that? Why is he laying in the water? Unbelievable. But again, it's a nice tench actually. I mean, if I jumped in, I wouldn't have got any wetter, because it would only gone up to probably my knees. But from my foot, and I had like sort of some old trainers on, so all my feet are wet, covered in mud, right up to my waist. The end of my shirt was all covered in lake water, of course, and mud. I was in a right old mess. And but yeah, they just looked at me, no expressions at all, and then just carried on walking off. I don't understand it, I really don't. But when I look back, I think, wow, that must have been so funny to have watched this bloke just flapping around in the water's edge. Reminds me of another story, but I might save that for another day when I was fishing. No, I'll save that for another day. It's a different venue, that one, but I don't know. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed listening to these the stories of my days fishing the Ornamental Waters back in the mid-70s to late 70s, maybe early 80s. The mysterious globe that appeared that day, night fishing over the Ornamentals, the rolling up the bread to form maggots, and the day when I provided 2 or 3 minutes of entertainment for a family of 4 that gave me no feedback at all. And of course, solving the mystery of Anne Boleyn's castle, which in fact was an elaborate boathouse built by John Child back in the 1700s. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon on Fishing Tale Films. I've got a video being uploaded. I mean, today This will be Tuesday now, and I've got a video uploading this Friday in the afternoon, just in time for the weekend, where I fished a water for the first time last Thursday. I went there, and what an eventful day that was. You can't miss that one. That was quite an experience. But there you go, I'll save that for when you watch it on Friday. Look after yourself, have a great week, and I'll see you again soon on Fishing Tail Films.